Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our Quitch guest webinar today. Today we have the fabulous team from RMIT Vet College, who we've been working with for a number of years now. And actually, in fact, the first thing I'd like to do is to take the opportunity to thank you guys for improving the Quitch product. I believe we've collaborated so closely that you've given so much feedback. Kirsty, a particular call out to you in terms of the detailed feedback you and the team have provided with students as well, which has absolutely improved our product. So we look forward to continuing that into the future. So today's webinar, it's called AI-powered quizzes boost first-time assessment success rates. And so a very warm welcome to Melanie Kyle and to Kirsty Macafee, who are joining us today. And so I will get Kirsty and Melanie to tell you a little bit about themselves, but I would also like to welcome the audience today and thank you for joining us. So Melanie and Kirsty will present for probably around 20 minutes or so, and then we hope we'll have about 10 minutes of time for questions and answers. So feel free to pop your questions, I should say, in the function below, and then we can answer those once the presentation is complete. So Kirsty, I might get you to start today, and just if you can tell people a little bit about your role at RMIT Vet College.
Sure. Thank you so much for having us along today. We've thoroughly enjoyed our collaborative work that we've done with the Quitch team, and the Quitch team have been so responsive to every single thing that we've suggested, always keen to improve the product and improve our experience as well. So I'm Kirsty Macafee, and I'm a senior learning designer in the Learning and Teaching Innovation team, and I'm joined by Melanie Kyle, who's a learning designer in that team, and together with Lawrence McCuna from our digital media team, we support or have supported the Quitch project through pilot and now expanding that into more areas across the College of VE. So we're just going to chat a little bit today about our process, but before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm joining from today, the Boonwurrung and Wurrung peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT respectfully acknowledges their ancestors and elders past and present, and we acknowledge traditional custodians and their ancestors across the lands and waters across Australia where we conduct our business. Okay, so today we're going to chat a little bit about educator and vocational education specific challenges. Then I'm going to hand over to Mel, who's going to walk you through how we transform our assessor guides into Quitch quizzes, and then talk a little bit about student engagement and our Canvas specific assets that we've developed to try and really encourage students along the journey from assessment preparation to successful completion. And then we'll talk a little bit about VE specific wins and outcomes. So first of all, we operate, you may or may not know, competency-based assessment, which means students have to achieve 100% to be satisfactory in a task. That's challenging, of course, especially when you've got lots of dense content that you need to memorize. They have multiple assessment tasks with multiple attempts allowed, and these assessment tasks have multiple page assessor guides, but we have then worked with the Quitch team to adapt their AI tool to accept those assessor guides so that we can use those to generate quiz questions to support our time poor educators who are trying their very best to increase student engagement and prepare them for assessment. So over to you, Mel.
Well, thank you, Kirsty. I'll just briefly introduce myself as well. My name is Melanie Kyle. I'm a learning designer, also in the Learning and Teaching Innovation team in the RMIT College of Vocational Education. And previous to being a learning designer, I was also a vocational education teacher, as was Kirsty, actually. And excuse me if you can hear, I've got a little bit of a cough. So now I'm going to talk about an exciting workflow that we've created using our competency-based assessments and the Quitch AI tool. So the workflow involves, firstly, that a teacher or Kirsty or I would download the quality approved version of the Assessor Guide for an assessment task. So we would access that quality approved document. Then we upload that quality approved document to the Quitch Create with AI tool. And then we use a prompt that we have spent quite a lot of time refining to ask the Quitch AI tool to select information from specific areas of that Assessor Guide document. Then we would review the questions that are produced and organize those questions into question banks. In fact, what we decided in our workflow is we would create 3 sets of question banks, which consist of 10 questions each for each assessment task. So there's 3 quizzes that go out to students for each assessment task. So once we've reviewed those questions in Quitch, then we publish them. So schedule those to be pushed out to students to align with assessment due dates. So if we move to the next slide, we've got a live or a video demo of that process. So you can see the prompt has gone in. We're selecting the question bank name, so labeling each of those 3 question banks, going for one assessment task. The same prompt. And the exciting thing is this is actually demonstrating the newest feature in Quitch, which is create a class, where we can simultaneously create those 3 question banks with a more refined prompt to generate 30 very high quality questions. So you can see we're uploading that assessor guide into this function. And by doing this at the same time, it's going to create 30 diverse questions as compared to perhaps if you did it separately, where we did in our earlier iterations, some repetition between questions. Now that's an opportunity to review, and you can see there on the left, the 3 question banks. And when you see those questions, you'll notice there's no repetition between those question banks, whereas in a previous version, when we created the question banks 10 at a time, we saw some repetition between them. So this is a significant improvement, being able to create a class in one session with one prompt. The quality of the questions is superior, and the diversity. And if you see this slide, this is demonstrating how you can also select create a class through that plus symbol in the content section of Quitch. Thank you, Kirsty. And there is the current prompt. That this is a refined prompt after quite a few iterations. So we'd like to share that prompt with you because the quality of the questions that it generates are highly improved, and they're gathering the detail that we need from those assessor guides. Thanks, Kirsty. Right. The other area we wanted to showcase for you today is we have built some Canvas assets to increase student engagement. These are prompts that we've now, we import into the Canvas shells. So for every course, Canvas course that is participating in the Quitch project, we bring these Canvas assets into that Canvas shell. So we've created a bank of announcements which align to when the quizzes are published and align with assessment due dates. And we've automated those announcements by pre-publishing those to go out in specifically aligned with the quizzes being pushed out by Quitch. And there are fun announcements. You can see there's a sample announcement. They're enthusiastic and they're engaging announcements, and they align with each of the question banks. And you note, for example, that first one, which we've taken a sample of, a screenshot, it even includes if a student has missed an onboarding to the Quitch, they can follow some instructions to access the Canvas module we created. We created a Canvas module which has the steps for students to access Quitch and scan the QR code to install the Quitch app on their phones. And you can see we also have created some Canvas reminders, and we select those reminders and put them in the relevant Canvas module as another nudge or prompt for students to complete their Quitch quiz. We found these assets to be particularly effective compared semester 1 to semester 2. Semester 1, we didn't have these announcements or reminders in place. And we noticed there was a bit of a disconnect between students. They're working in Canvas and not looking at their Quitch app. So we've in semester 2 put these prompts in place, and we've noted a significant uptake in the students completing the quizzes, and higher completion rates, and teachers have reported that students are more engaged. And we can see I've moved on to our specific wins and outcomes. So we've seen increased student success already with across semester 1 and 2. And this student success means that they're able to complete assessments in the first go, and there's reduced reassessment required. So teachers had reported, particularly say in an area like nursing, that students needed to submit assessment tasks multiple times to achieve satisfactory. After using these Quitch quizzes, and those prepare them prior to the submission of the assessment, they're nailing it the first go and not requiring that reassessment. Also, students report feeling assessment ready, and we've seen a huge win with these Canvas announcements and reminders. Thanks, Kirsty. And here's a quote from one of the educators that I asked. I said, I need a good quote for this webinar today. We are seeing a greater number of submissions meet assessment due dates and a reduction in inaccuracies after using Quitch. So that seems like a significant win. Thanks, Kirsty. So now I think we're open, Grania, for questions.
Great. Thank you, Melanie. So I'll just see if anyone in the audience, if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in our Q&A tab at the bottom, and I'm sure Melanie and Kirsty will be happy to answer them. But meantime, while we're just waiting for people to ask some questions, there's a number of things that stood out to me that I was really quite intrigued by and very excited about. One was your new workflow. Because I love that workflow. It just seems to work so fantastically well. Did it take some time to put together that new workflow? Did it take a lot of time and effort, or was it something you knew kind of had to happen, but it was that the Quitch process made it easier to do?
Thanks for that question. Shall I answer that one, Kirsty?
Sure,
Okay, the first iteration involved quite a lengthy experimentation period where we trialed various prompts. So we were uploading the assessor guide as it was with no prompt, for example, and checked the quality of the questions that it created. Then we uploaded the assessor guide with quite a simple prompt. So we actually iterated with a range of prompts. That was actually quite a few hours of work, trialing different prompts. So to build the prompt took a bit of time. To be honest, it was an investment in time, because we were trying to ask that prompt to generate, just to capture information from the questions and the sample answers within the assessor guide, and not to grab course codes and instructions and so on. Yeah, so we did. Yes, I think that, I hope that answers that question. So that initial period of testing was highly valuable, but it was a fairly lengthy period of time. I think we spent a few hours over a week trialing it different ways.
Testing it out. And I think, but such significant positive outcomes from it, Melanie, is what I just, if you want to, could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, so we can already see, for example, with the creator class functionality, which just has been available from this week, I believe. Is that correct? Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
So compared to what we were doing, so we had the same workflow, exactly the same workflow of upload the assessor guide into the Create with AI. We had a prompt that we were happy with, and we were generating reasonable questions. However, there was quite a lot of repetition between the question banks, if you recall, because we decided we wanted 3 question banks to prepare students for each assessment task. And the student feedback has been, they found that a bit repetitive. And that was something when I spoke to my colleague this week about a great quote, her feedback was, students have said the questions can be a little bit repetitive. Now, it's interesting because going from that to now create a class, we can see a significant, I don't know how to measure that, but a significant improvement, because they're using the same workflow with that one prompt, with the same assessor guide. The quality of questions is incredible, right? Far superior, and no repetition.
Yeah, I mean, this is fantastic, Melanie, because talking to you guys, Kirsty, please go ahead.
I do think it's important to note that we're also learning all the time, and obviously as like the product improves, we're like, oh, okay, well, how can we leverage that? So we did this week refine the prompt further. I think the quality of the prompt is superior to what we were using. And I think that's really important, that we're continuing to learn based on what's becoming available to us in Quitch, feedback from our educators, feedback from our students, and also our own experience. So we're making sure that we're remaining agile. We're not standing still. We're responding to what's available, and always looking to improve.
Yeah, and I think actually, Kirsty, that's a really important point to make, the agility here and the ongoing learning, because we all are, and I think it's the only way we can all improve the outcomes for our students. Melanie, you mentioned before about the time poor our educators are. We know that as well, and all have been educators in the past, so we know how difficult that is. So I think you're 100% right, Kirsty, really important point to make, that this is learning, ongoing learning for us all, which is, again, why I talk about the collaboration between us. A meeting with your nursing team yesterday as well, to see what are some of the other things that we can continue to improve. But I'm so happy, Melanie, to see the impact of that creating a class has had, because that is something that we built as feedback from you guys, and just the improvement in those questions, which is exactly the outcome we wanted. So it's just great to hear how effective that has been. Yeah, so fantastic. I
Thank you.
Some questions for you guys. Are there any particular program areas where you are presently seeing success in the College of Vet with use of Quitch? So any particular program areas?
Well, I would say yes. Okay, shall I also answer that one, Kirsty? We're seeing success in the Diploma of Nursing.
Okay.
To an extent that in semester 1 we had one course, one unit of competency, and now we have 2 for semester 2. And we have the program manager and course coordinator from Diploma of Nursing requesting us to increase it to further units of competency next year. They're particularly happy with the work. Also in the diploma of, I always get this one wrong, Kirsty, to teacher preparation, vet.
Teacher preparation. Yep.
That's one. Diploma of vet teacher preparation. And the certificate for in education support. So we're having high completion rates of those Quitch quizzes in those areas. And students are, commenting on their efficacy. And those areas are particularly interesting because those are pre-service teachers or future teachers as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So we sell them the idea of using this educational technology as useful for their learning as future teachers. The other area, would you say, Kirsty? Oh, we've got in the certificate for tertiary preparation engineering stream, we have a CAD computer aided design unit of competency that is very enthusiastic about using the Quitch quizzes. And a certificate, no, is it advanced diploma of building design in that area? We
and
have
also
one.
we've just onboarded from Future Technologies, ICT, and cybersecurity, which is really exciting to have them on board too. And their involvement has actually shifted, I guess, the way that we're going to approach our onboarding for 2026, because there was really a huge level of excitement about Quitch as sort of part of being an RMIT student. So we're going to really leverage that, I guess, in 2026 and make it part of that orientation onboarding. And it is the quickest way to gamify your learning. So it's exciting. Yeah.
That's a good point about the orientation as well. You mentioned there just something I wanted to pick up, Melanie, about some of the engineering units. And one of the things we've recently introduced is a new numeric type question, which I think could be very useful for your STEM and engineering area. And that's something we might do a demo for you later. I don't know if we've gotten around to doing that for you yet. So I think it could be another exciting area for you. So we'll take an opportunity to do that for you.
Thanks, Grania. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting, and it'd be great to get your feedback on that as well. So Kirsty, I might have a question for you, if I may then.
Sure.
So what advice would you give to educators who want to get the most out of AI and gamified learning? So, where should people kind of start, do you think?
I think start small. Don't decide you're going to just take on your entire college or an entire program. I think we have been strategic in the way we've sort of pushed Quitch out, in the sense what we're trying to do is make it sort of light touch for each unit of competency, which ensures that it remains something that can be employed across the program. Because if you're rolling out 10 questions a week in a single unit of competency or more, it's going to be a lot. If students are completing 5 or 6 units of competency in a semester, to be getting 50 questions a week. So we've been very strategic in that we're just rolling out the assessment preparation questions. Students are aware that that's what it's for, directly tied to their assessment. And in fact, we had a lovely experience during the mid-semester break that just occurred, where one of our educators contacted us and said, I've got students hassling me for the Quitch quizzes. Can you publish them all so they can practice over the semester break? So that's really great to see that it is being recognized, I guess, as a really useful tool for students, in the sense that they know it's been created with AI. We've been transparent with that, but obviously it's drawing from our content. It's not just going out making things up. And from their point of view, it's going to be a much higher quality targeted practice experience than if they went to AI themselves and said, generate flashcards for me so I can practice for my assessment. So they're recognizing that it is really a high quality and good fun experience.
And I think, Kirsty, your point there about targeted is a really important one. And that's something that we wanted really to make sure of when you were creating these questions, that it was focused on your content so that you can really get the student, because that's the experience they're looking for. And that's what, you know, will impact those learning outcomes that, Melanie, you talked about, the significant improvement in the learning outcomes. So I think that's a really important one, Kirsty. And I love that they were, demanding some more question. I've had the same experience with accounting students. And I think it's fantastic that they can get into it. And I think the fact it's on their mobile phone, it's easy to access. As they said to me when I was designing, they're always on their mobile phone. So a mobile first solution is, you know, the kind of the thing they want, and fun. Absolutely right. You know, so I think, that's fantastic. Thank you for that, Kirsty. So Melanie, I might ask you then one of my other questions. What excites you most about the future of vocational education, given your experience as a teacher previously and now a designer, in terms of, I guess, AI and all of the opportunities that we have at the moment?
What excites me is the integration of technology with learning. So being able to leverage all of the educational technology that's available. There's a lot of accessible technology that Quitch is an example. Excuse me. Accessible, quite easy. There are now AI tools involved in a lot of these educational technology tools, and so making the learning obviously engaging, accessible. That's what I find very exciting. Also applying universal design for learning principles. So that's an area that we've been looking at a lot this year. So really making that a focus, making content and learning diverse and accessible.
Great, fantastic. I love that. That's such a great summary. Kirsty and Melanie, can I ask if the audience want to reach out to anyone in the audience about what you're doing and so on, would that be okay if we share your details?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
great. Thank you. Because there was a number of people who said to me that some people couldn't make it today, but we will have the recording for them. But they said it might be helpful if they could speak directly to you as well.
Of course.
Yeah, great. Thank you both so much for that. So we are just about out of time. So I just thought I'd do a little bit of a summary. So some of the key things that stood out for me was you were very clear on the challenge you were trying to solve for, which was, you talked, Melanie, in the first instance about the support for time poor educators who are trying to engage their students, which is fantastic. And you've obviously executed on that really, really well. And I also love the fact that it's the universal design for learning principles that you're focused on. I think that's also really important. I think it always helps us succeed in these areas. And then importantly, of course, the students themselves, the significant improvement in those outcomes for them in terms of that first time assessment, getting through it. They talked about being, assessment ready and so on, which I think is a huge benefit for our students. I think as well as being assessment, I think it removes so much anxiety for them, and there's so much anxiety that they face. I think that's, a huge positive impact for them. So I want to say a huge thank you to you both. Kirsty, thank you so much for joining us. It's a joy to work with you both. Melanie, it's so great to have you as well, and we just love collaborating with you. And I'm excited about what we can do for the future as well, so how we can improve things for both our educators and also indeed our students. So a huge thank you to you both, and thank you so much to the audience for joining us today as well.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much,
Thank
everybody.
you.